and by few I mean none.
And when you're shooting things, just don't miss. It's as simple as that. When you find yourself in a sword fight, just make sure you gut the other fellow first. Easy, what?
Balverines? I've killed 50 of them, with nothing but a rusty cutlass. The moon? I've been there, in a great balloon. It's amazing, and almost never rains. Spells and that, I know them all. Cuisine? Every dish ever prepared, I've eaten it. Inventions? That was me. I invented them. Oh, and I wrote this book. Not impressed? Well, you would be if you knew I was illiterate. And paralysed. And blind.
Many have sought the elixir of immortality, the secret wisdom of the ages, the hidden lore that the Emerald Tablet speaks of. Few have found it, and by few I mean none, and by none I mean one, and by one I mean me, and by mean I mean imply. Anyway, I have found the elixir, and now everlasting youth is mine. At last the ultimate dream is realized, to live for all eternity. In that time I will ponder the greatest questions, such as, do I stay my current age from now on? Or could I actually be younger forever? And if so, how would that age be chosen? And will my body still change according to diet and exercise? Or is there a sort of implied perfect health that goes along with the longevity? And what happens if I'm shot or I fall off a cliff? Can that kill me? Am I only safe from a death by natural causes? And what about fertility? Will I be able to have children 10,000 years from now? I might actually need longer than eternity to answer these.
Spending all the years of your young life on a small farm in a backwater county has made you restless. Who knows what flight of fancy or idle daydream first sparked your desire for adventure? But once ignited, the flames of wanderlust could not be extinguished, not even by the water of looking at things in more realistic terms, and perhaps considering a career in excavation. Your parents tried to reason with you, but the protests of the old ring hollow in the ears of a strong-willed young farm boy or girl like you. And so now you stand at a crossroads. It's a nice one, with newly painted signs and a bench. If you want to head east towards the ominous ruin, turn to page 2. To go west towards the ancient forest, turn to page 4. To head north towards the snow-covered mountains, turn to page 156. If you want to go south, which is back home, read this page again.
King Cedric the Just but Fair was a lover of the arts. He commissioned elaborate spectacles at his palace, often with himself as the main performer. He particularly enjoyed shadow puppetry. When not on stage, Cedric introduced several harsh and unorthodox legal reforms. During his reign, over 70 members of the aristocracy were executed. 3 for treason, 1 for conspiracy, and 68 for misidentifying the animal or thing he was depicting. Old King Oswald had a long and peaceful reign, but as he grew older, he became obsessed with his own mortality. Actually, at first he was obsessed with someone else's mortality, but then he switched to his own. He had heard the legends of the fabled elixir of immortality and the fables of the legendary secret of the ages, so he summoned many knights of the realm and commanded them to go forth and search for the key to eternal life. So desperate was he that he decreed any knight who returned without the elixir will be executed. So none of them came back, and he died in due course. It was not one of Oswald's better decrees. Marcus Ivy was the 4th ruler to be named Marcus. However, he believed this fact diminished his importance, so he insisted that the letters after his name were merely an oddly spelled surname. No member of his court ever took issue with this, partly out of fear of reprisal, and partly because, well, how could you have that conversation and not have it be unbelievably awkward?
The first core principle of our economic theory can be summarized thusly. Greed is good for you. Now, let us clarify who we mean by you. Not you, at least not directly. Greed is directly good for the government, because the more you spend to acquire material possessions, feed your family, etc., the stronger the economy becomes, and the more the government earns in taxes. A strong economy coupled with a strong government creates an environment in which progress is limitless, and virtually anything is possible, and therein lies the indirect benefit of your greed. Of course, given your greediness, in all likelihood, you will not survive long enough to benefit from society's affluence, being grossly overweight yourself. But think of your children. Yes, they will be predisposed to obesity and an early death just as you were, but their short lives will be far more luxurious than yours. Which brings us to the second core principle. Quality is more important than quantity.
Baron von Orphan was a dabbler in the black arts, particularly alchemy. As a young nobleman, he applied a sample of his own blood, mixed with various alchemical substances, to a mandrake root, and created a small, diminutive version of himself, a homunculus. It was his dark aim that this creation would become a vessel for any ailment or malady which would otherwise plague the Baron himself. From that day forward, Baron von Orphan suffered no disease, no wound, no wart, nary any affliction at all. Thus it was that the Baron lived well past the age of 80, until one day he accidentally knocked the homunculus into an alembic of powerful acid. There it promptly dissolved, and the horrified Baron, seeing this, steeled himself for the worst, but was fine. Turns out he just had a really amazing constitution.
None knew from whence they came, nor to whence they would go upon completing their terrible orgy of bloodshed. All that was known was that they came, and Armageddon came with them. They killed everyone, and in unimaginably horrible ways. Ways that, even if they were imaginable, you wouldn't want to imagine them, believe me. Their rampage left the village decimated. And for generations, the few survivors and their offspring could barely bring themselves to speak the name of that most terrifying of evils. Puffin. Quentin stood over the sleeping form and clenched the knife tightly in his hand. Here was the woman he loved. The first person who'd shown him true affection. The wonderful creature whose very laugh made him want to sing. Could he really go through with this? One transgression, what she had tearfully labeled a terrible mistake. For that, did she deserve death? He wrestled with the question for what seemed an eternity. But while his logical mind desperately tried to stay his hand, in his liver he knew what he must do. He raised the blade. It glinted with deadly promise in the moonlight, then vanished as he plunged it into his darling.
Extracts from the Diary of a Hermit. Day 1. I have taken leave of the world. All my life I have spoken with my fellow man about truth and meaning, and I have found neither. From this day forth, no more talk. Enlightenment must be earnestly sought, not idly discussed. Anything else is a meaningless distraction. Day 52. Long have I sat in this cave, eating only of the leaves of the golden flower, and meditating upon the divine. Soon I will become at one with the universe. I can feel it. Day 182. Solitude is the great purifier. Perhaps solitude itself is divine. Through its purity, I let go of my earthly self, and in doing so become one with all. Day 313.